This is the Hollywood Outsider. My name is Aaron Peterson, and this is a special episode of our show. Our normal episode is already out, and a new one is released every Thursday, as always, at thehollywoodoutsiders.com. Today, I am bringing you an interview I recently did with the filmmakers of Zero Charisma, director Katie Graham and writer-director Andrew Matthews. Now, for those wondering about Zero Charisma, we did review the film on episode 112 of our show, as well as a written review is now available on our site. But the film follows the story of Scott, a tabletop game master whose world is kind of thrown into sorts when he comes across a much cooler hipster in the form of Miles. The film is about much more than just gaming, and we recommend that you check it out on your video-on-demand service as soon as it's available October 8th. You can also go to zerocharismathemovie.com for more information. We were able to get some time with Katie and Andrew and dive a little deeper into the story and kind of making the film itself. Please remember that they had to conduct the interview by phone, so the audio was not the best possible, but it's still a very insightful interview, and we hope you guys enjoy it. So let's get to it. This is my name is Aaron Peterson. I'm talking to Andrew Matthews and Katie Graham with Zero Charisma. I know you guys both collaborated on the American Scream and Best Worst movie. Kind of before we talk about the movie you just made, can you tell me a little bit about yourselves, like what prompted you to want to get into this to begin with?
Yeah, actually, Katie and I met in high school. We both were in the same media program in high school, and we started dating in college, and we always wanted to do something in television or film. We had a cable access show for a short time in our early 20s. We made lots of short films and that kind of stuff. We actually got into the feature films because we were big fans of Troll 2, one of the worst movies ever made, and we decided to make a mock trailer that made Troll 2 look like a brilliant indie film. We put it online, and it got, fairly popular. And Michael Paul Stevenson, the director of Best Worst Movie and the child actor who was the star of Troll 2, saw it online, and he was gearing up to make a documentary about Troll 2, which became Best Worst Movie. And he contacted us and said, you guys want to, help me do this? And we were both like, if it means we get to meet the cast of Troll 2, then we definitely want to do that. So so Katie was the DP of Best Worst Movie. I was the editor, and it was an amazing experience. And since then we've just been sort of focusing on doing feature films.
Yeah, I mean, it was basically when we went to South by in 2009 with Best Worst Movie. That kind of started our gears running on doing our own narrative, and because that was the first festival we had ever gone to, so we were like, what an amazing experience, and how can we do this again, basically. So that's kind of how Zero Charisma started, the early stages of it.
Now, you guys have had an interesting story in terms of how you got this movie made. Explain that a little bit. I mean, how did you get it done? Because I know crowdfunding was involved. What did it really take to get it made?
The first dime we made, or to invest in the film was through Indiegogo. We put together a teaser trailer that we actually ended up, we hired an actor to do it. He actually did it for free, the teaser. And we just kind of shot something to make it look kind of like a trailer and to give people a basic idea of what the movie would be like. At the time we had a script. It wasn't the final script, but we just wanted to give people a taste of it. And we found Sam, and who ended up being in the movie. But at the time it wasn't really an audition. We just found this guy. And we're like, had him join us for a couple days. We shot for like 3 days making this teaser. And we liked Sam so much that we decided to cast him in the movie.
Right. So we put the teaser on Indiegogo, and we actually raised like way more than our target goal. It's still, not enough to make a full feature, so we had to go find investments from other places. But that really kicked it off, not just financially, but also awareness-wise. There were some articles written about it, and we suddenly had a kind of a fan base before we'd even made the film, which was really exciting, but also kind of scary.
Well, I got to tell you, there's a lot of people I know that are pretty excited about the movie just because it's focused on tabletop gaming. What made you want to tell that story? Like, of all the stories you could have told, what made you go with Dungeons and Dragons-esque?
Well, I've been playing Dungeons and Dragons and other role-playing games since I was probably like in 4th grade or so, and it's always been a passion of mine of kind of a huge creative outlet and maybe a little primer for filmmaking when I was a kid. But I was just familiar with the world, and it's a comfortable world and a world that we knew we could portray authentically. And it just fit the character that we wanted to make a film about. We wanted to make a film about a character who was very pompous and aggressive and obsessive, but also very vulnerable. And Dungeons and Dragons is such a creative hobby. It made him more like a kind of a misunderstood artist rather than just an obsessive. And so that was kind of a no-brainer to make it about that world. It's also a very social hobby too, which is better for a movie. I remember early on when we were trying to raise money for the film, some people would say, well, why don't you make it about World of Warcraft, because that's like really popular right now. And you're like, well, that's people sitting miles apart in front of their computers.
Yeah.
And people have successfully done shows and short films about that world. But we really wanted something where actors were in a room together, interacting a lot, which is what that is.
Well, I have to commend you both for the characters in the movie, because I personally know at least one of each of them in real life. And I think you guys did a really good job of showing like fair and true, because generally when movies focused on geeks are represented, it's always a little shortchanged and it's a little Hollywood-esque, what they perceive to that community to be like. Did you guys base any of these on real people, especially Scott, Miles, or Wayne? Did you base them on people you actually knew?
Yeah, I would definitely say there's pieces of people that we've known throughout our lives, pieces of ourselves in there, and then also, of course, some comedy archetypes that you play off of. Yeah, I won't name any names.
No. I don't want you to. You're just getting started. I don't want you to get bit right now. Scott is probably one of the easiest guys in the world to not like. He's essentially gone nowhere in his life. His role as game master, from my interpretation, is really all he has to feed his need for superiority. And I thought, yeah. Sam, is it Sam Idson or Idson? How's it? Idson, okay. He brought I thought, a really honest and fairly sympathetic portrayal to a guy with a really low self-esteem and a bit of a Napoleon complex. So I want to know what made him your perfect choice for the lead.
Well, it's funny because Sam in real life is a very mild-mannered, sweet guy. Mm-hmm. And we knew that if we kind of cast a guy who playing kind of an asshole would be easier for them. Mm-hmm. We knew that would be kind of challenging. We knew that people might not identify with that as much, or it may be put off more because the character is kind of so difficult. So we going with Sam was sort of like he is so vulnerable. We know he's very popular in Austin, and like we knew people would relate to him because of his vulnerability, and sort of so being kind of an aggressive guy or a difficult guy that was more of a challenge for Sam as an actor, I think. But the vulnerability was right there for him,
Yeah, so, absolutely. And I liked how you guys didn't. By the time the movie ends, he's not a saint. He's not really. He hasn't done that Hollywood change where he's magically found. Oh, I'm a great person now. I really.
Right.
I thought it's a pretty honest revelation that he has.
Yeah, we like to say he grows 1%.
Yeah, roughly. I mean, or whatever it is when he rolls the dice. Garrett Graham plays Miles, and he's kind of the arch nemesis who's a little cooler, a little richer, a little more accomplished. So my question to you is, was the intent to create a villain or a foil for Scott, or was this more of to show, here's who Scott could be if he would be a little nicer and had a little more ambition?
I think in writing the script, so much of like the major emotion that I tapped into in writing the script was insecurity. Mm-hmm. And so for me, it was like, what kind of person creates the most insecurity for Scott? And it's someone who has the same interests as him, but is just kind of better at it effortlessly. Mm-hmm. Because originally I thought, some people would ask like, how come Scott doesn't like best him in a way or win? Well, that's the deal with insecurity is like you're never going to be better at everybody. You just have to deal with being who you are. And so at every step, it was definitely, to answer your question, it was creating the perfect foil for Scott. And every step of the way, it's like, what kind of guy would just make him the most insecure? And also the fact that he's a hipster who doesn't take anything seriously, while Scott takes everything too seriously. It seemed like a good balance.
It was. Also, kudos for Kendra, because it was nice to have a geek have an attractive girlfriend and it doesn't have to be a bimbo. I mean, she seemed like a real part of the group.
Yeah. That's Katie Folger is the name of the actress who played Kendra, and she was awesome. It was her first film, but she just had a great audition and brought that perfect amount of like friendly kind of warmth and intelligence to it.
My favorite part of the film, personally, is the relationship between Scott and his mom. Because I think you guys explained a bit of who Scott was without really slamming it into somebody's head, which I respect. So why was that dynamic important to you in terms of getting across, to both of you?
Well, he definitely has issues with women throughout the film. He has, from his boss to his grandmother to his mother to his to Kendra, and especially like strong women, I guess. Not that his mother is like a good role model for strong women or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was kind of a place of where we could, we know we're creating this character, this like archetype of this guy, and then we want to dig deeper into his personal life, his family life, and go, you can think that this guy, it's like the comic book guy from The Simpsons. You think one way about him, but you go home at night and what is his family life like? What is his like personal life like? And it's challenging, and just like anybody else's, but just to kind of humanize him and not.
And in a way that so much of the movie was about, like, is it growing up or not growing up or, not becoming an adult in ways. And we actually wanted his mother to almost share that trait with him, that she is not growing up in her way as well. So they almost have kind of like a brother-sister relationship because both of them are still children in a way and kind of have their own fantasies. Yeah, and it was mainly to humanize him and to see kind of like where he's come from.
I loved it. I thought it was a great addition. It was really well done in terms of you explained everything about that character just by their first meeting. Honestly, it really did a well job. Both of you. Now you guys are working together because you're co-directors. How does that work? I mean, a lot of people always ask that when you have two directors on set. Does one of you punch the other one, or do you rock paper scissors? How does it work?
I guess Andrew has an acting background. He got his master's in classical acting, so he's worked with actors and done a lot of theater. So he's great with the actors, even though I do as well. I'll work with actors as well, but I'm kind of more on the side of, I come from a film background. I studied film, and I make all the like art decisions, all the wardrobe decisions, all the like kind of look of the film.
Yeah, Katie spent like a month prior to production just like building Scott's room, which was an immense challenge because we wanted it to be so full and authentic, but yet not treading on any copyright issues. So she tracked down like 24 fantasy artists to get permission to use their work all over his walls. And I mean, and that was such an achievement because typically with, movies that are of a micro budget like this one is, and understandably so, you see a lot of white walls because that is just like it's such a huge hurdle, not only to like buy art, but to get clearance for art. It's so difficult. So we were like, the subculture we've chosen is so specific, we have to do it justice. I've gotten off track from the question.
No, it's really interesting actually.
Yeah, so Katie is very much more kind of visual than I am as far, and I like to say that she's the eyes and I'm the ears. Although we both, mingle in each other's worlds, and we know that we both agree on something, it makes it easier to feel confident about that decision.
Yeah, that's kind of the weirdest part about Andrew and I. When we know as a team. So, there's always, we'll like know when that's the right take, and we just know it.
Yeah.
Was Greg Goran, the Greg Goran character, was he an homage or a jab at Gary Gygax? I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure. I think Gary Gygax is a much nicer guy than Greg Goran is.
I don't know. I thought Greg was great.
That was actually my father who played that role.
That was your dad?
Yeah. He's been a character actor in LA for many, many years, and I kind of wrote the role for him. And then he was doing a show in New York at the time, so we only had him on Monday, the one day off, and so we had to fly him out Sunday night, do the whole scene on Monday, and then fly him back the next morning. So it was not only a lot of time pressure, but also a weird kind of pressure directing your father too, from whom you've gained most of your knowledge about acting. So
did you take it out on him at all?
No, but it was difficult to say, try it this way instead.
Yeah, I'm like, Andrew, you get to give your father notes. I am not doing that.
Well, before I know my time with you guys is wrapping up, I know you've got a lot of interviews you're trying to do today. I did have one. I asked some friends of mine, and honestly, I don't know the answer to this, but they're geeks. They wanted me to ask one geek question. So if that's okay, I'm going to give it a shot. It's you ready? Because I really don't know what any of this means. So
Okay.
Was Scott's game system based on the traditional D&D system or the D20 system that has taken over the gaming space? And if based on the D20 system, would it be part of the OGL or a closed system?
This is a geek test, right? Yeah.
No, trust me. If you don't answer it, I'll cut it out. I don't even care. I just want to know if you know.
I would say it's based on the traditional system. I know there's a D20 system that is becoming sort of like a standard. You can drop it into any milieu you want. Honestly, we didn't design his game.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's more. I played D&D 3.5. I'm not really a 4th edition guy, but I guess Pathfinder is maybe the closest that you could get to this. I've never really actually played the D20 systems before. I was really kind of a D&D guy for most of my life. I played 4th edition, but I prefer 3rd, which everyone says Pathfinder is basically, 3rd edition refined, but I haven't played that yet.
Well, I'm sure they know exactly what you're saying. I don't. So before we close up, with this movie coming out and it's getting ready for release, what can our listeners do to help you get the word out?
You can follow us on Facebook. We're at, I think, facebook.com/zerocharisma movie.
Okay.
And then just tell their friends. It's going to be I think October 8th is when it comes out on iTunes and VOD. And it would be awesome just to have a really great first week on iTunes, and kind of push it up, keep it near the top of the list or something like that. Yeah, spread the word.
Spread the word.
On Twitter and Facebook and rent the movie on iTunes.
Yeah.
Are you guys going to try any kind of platform release in terms of limited theaters or?
We do. We're actually playing in about 8 theaters. New York. We're premiering at Comic-Con in New York next week, and then we're going to be at Cinema Village. And
you can see the entire list of all the theaters that we're playing with in October at www.zerocharismathemovie.com.
Excellent. And are you guys working on anything next? Do you have a next big project?
We are working on some scripts. Nothing to announce yet. We're still in the very, very early stages, trying to get this one out the door first.
We're going to encourage everybody we can to check it out. Like I said, it's a very nice representation of a community that's kind of underserved, I think. And also,
awesome.
And it's a great story, too. It's not just about that culture. I mean, the story itself is great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Oh, no problem. So I want to thanks Andrew and Katie for being here, and I'll let you guys get back to the rest of your day, your interviews.
Okay, thanks so much.
All right, thank you.
Bye.
Take care. And once again, I'm Aaron with the Hollywood Outsider podcast. This has been a special edition of our normal podcast, and I hope you guys do check out the movie. We wouldn't tell you about it unless we thought it was actually a good quality film. It's obviously an independent film, so it's a lower budget. It's not big spectacle, but the story itself actually tells a really good story. So I highly recommend it. Check it on video on demand. That's where independent films are really going these days, and they rely on people like you to support them. So if you want more quality movies made about the environments and the things that you love, these are the kind of endeavors you need to support. So thanks, guys. And once again, you can always find us on iTunes. You can find us on Stitcher Radio. Go to thehollywoodoutsider.com. Remember, the next time you go to a theater, buy popcorn.